Sabah al-Khair. Good morning, dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Hello everyone. This week's episode will be a repeat of the last Saturday of June. Thank you.
Good morning, Yusuf. How are you doing?
Good morning, Nasser. Hello to you and to all our listeners.
A big week we've had, Yusuf. A big week. We've seen the white saviours out in force and the traitors of the Palestinian people and the Arab national cause in Bahrain.
The burden of the white man in action.
Well, you know, this is the Orientalist mindset. You know, you're brown, you're black, you're not from the Judeo-Christian civilization,
and therefore,
you don't know what's right for you and what you need. And it's up to us to tell you what you need. And you know, there's a famous line, Lord Curzon, when he was the ruler of British India, and he said to the Indians in India, "You cannot do without us." As if, you know, the Indian civilization, you know, some 5,000 years old, and now, as we know, you know, a world power and over 1 billion people couldn't have done without the British rule.
The world's biggest democracy as well.
Yeah.
So we have seen as of Tuesday and Wednesday this week, what is called the Bahrain Workshop for Prosperity for Peace. This is the name the Trump administration wanted to give to the beginning of the so-called deal of the century. I like how you rephrased it.
Yeah, the steal of the century.
The steal of the century.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is we should before we go into specifically we talk about the treachery of some of the Arab regimes, but what these Orientalists have failed to comprehend that Palestinians are not going to accept. They didn't accept the British mandate, didn't accept partitioning, didn't accept Nakba, didn't accept where the Palestinians didn't accept the Arab regimes trying to impose a solution between Nakba and Naksa between 1967 or in fact the 60s with the rise of the PLO. It hasn't worked post 67. Oslo, the PA, all of this concept post Oslo, we still didn't accept it. It won't work under Trump. We're not going anywhere.
No.
All we want is our right to statehood. And anything less than that is the vilest form of anti-Palestinianism, full stop.
I was reminded by this Palestinian determination with a line from our beloved Mahmoud Darwish. He wrote in 1983 after the invasion of Lebanon. He says, قد أخسر الدنيا نعم لكني أقول الآن لا. I might lose the world, yes, but I say now, no. لكني أقول الآن لا هي آخر الطلقات. This is our last ammunition.
Our last ammunition. And the continuation and perpetuation of denying Palestinian agency, self-determination, is in and of itself beyond racist, beyond neo-colonial. It's an abject failure. If this past 100 years hasn't taught that white savior mentality complex anything, is it we're not going anywhere.
No.
We will not give up.
So we will talk about the Bahrain workshop. We might also give a bit of context of the journey towards this concept, but we also have
a little bit of good news. Well, I mean, it's nice every now and again to have a bit of a win, and it's not a great win, but we'll talk about Salwa Kupti later in the show, but stay tuned for that.
Okay, so I guess, Nasser, if we want to introduce the the conference or the workshop in Bahrain, there are so many question marks. First of all, why Bahrain?
Well, can we, Yusuf, just before we get to Bahrain, we should rewind perhaps the previous 24, 36 months to give a lead into where we are today. And we need to go back to Trump and the fact that, this known misogynist, known racist, known anti-Semite.
Incompetent politician.
All of these things. But he has posted anti-Semitic pictures. He has spoken about the power of, Jewish money, bankers, alluded to global cabals and conspiracies, to the point where he courted the favour of some very prominent Jewish businessmen and sought their funding, and with that came, promise. And if you take ourselves on the journey of what this president has done, that no president has done, or U.S. Politicians have ever actually delivered on. In the first instance, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of State of Israel. From there, he's then gone and the PLO office was closed in Washington. From there, defunding UNRWA. From there, closing aid into the PA, but into projects within the West Bank and Gaza. From there, he's gone, and now the Golan Heights. So on a wish list for Benjamin Netanyahu, he's ticked off 5 of, I think, 8 things. The only thing left now is the
annexation of West Bank.
Annexation, and Trump's bankruptcy lawyer, David Friedman, who's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, who himself, even though he's the ambassador,
is more Zionist than the majority of Israelis.
He is a financial supporter of an illegal settlement in the West Bank, Bet El. The American ambassador to Israel, who is Jewish and a settler, has said categorically he believes in certain circumstances Israel has the right to retain some, but unlikely all of the West Bank. This is the precursor. We've said it in the language now for the American ambassador for Trump to go, well, Palestinian statehood, because there's, I reckon, only 3 things left that Netanyahu has on the list. Number 1 is the annexation of the West Bank, and ultimately that is in itself tied to the rejection of a concept of the Palestinian state. Yep. Number 2, with what he's done with UNRWA, is to finally put an end to 194 and the right of return.
Yeah. And of course find what they call a solution to the Gaza problem.
Well, yes, find a solution. Well, I think what they've done to Gaza now, they've quarantined it. Every now and again they've got to mow the lawn, but in my mind that's not on Netanyahu's real issue. It's a great way to win votes. Every now and again you got elections, you go in there and have a turkey shoot. But the last thing, and he's still failing to find that, is the quisling Uncle Tom Palestinian leadership. What he needs is Trump to find a puppet leader that
who will
say,
just
I sign
whatever you want.
That will accept.
President Abbas said in a meeting with the foreign media last week, in answers to why he's not going to Bahrain workshop, he actually said that when Trump came to power, he himself met him 4 times. And Palestinian delegations met his peace delegations, that is Greenblatt and Kushner and Friedman, 34 times. And things were, just another administration. Let's not assume that it's going to be worse, even though that we have Zionists on board, proud, publicly proud. And there were indications that Trump might surprise the world with the recognition of a Palestinian state, and and therefore there was no assumption. But then came the turning point in October 2017, like what you said. PLO office in Washington was notified that they were not going to renew their 6-monthly renewable presence there. And then came in December 2017 with the infamous annexation of or recognition of West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and the shift of the American embassy.
Not just West Jerusalem, all of Jerusalem.
All of Jerusalem, yeah. And then came the list of actions taken against the PA. First defunding PA, then defunding NGOs, then defunding hospitals. And we might remind our listeners that the Americans used to pay $800 million a year as part of the donor club in the Oslo Accord. All that stopped, but moreover, they stopped their financial contribution to UNRWA after they stopped it to UNESCO, and after they stopped it to other UN bodies like the Human Rights Council, in protest of what they called the UN bias against Israel. And then came having to put pressure on the PA for what they called funding terrorists, because PA pays the salaries of prisoners and families of martyrs. And moreover, like you said, there's the Golan Heights. So a long list of actions taken by the Trump administration, not to mention the unprecedented statements taken by Greenblatt and Kushner and Friedman against the Palestinians' rights. And then came, the idea of let's have a workshop to announce maybe the economic part, because the Arab media, the Palestinian media, and partly the Israeli media started mentioning the word Safqat al-Asr, or the deal of the century, probably a year ago or more than a year ago. And people started saying, no, this is exaggeration. They're not going to be so naive to propose something so ungrounded like this. But turns out that there are no limits to how far they can go in their stupidity and in their assumption that, we can just bribe the Palestinians and make them live in...
Yusuf, is it a bribe?
It's not even a bribe.
In my mind, you wonder whether or not the case has been set to create the rejection, so that they get the no and say, Palestinians... only had opportunities to miss opportunities, yeah? And we go from that to such a devastating financial impact, as you were talking and I alluded to before, of such a severe financial catastrophe that's getting created. I mean, the Palestinians are very resourceful people. We have, whilst today 40% of the West Bank's population is unemployed, and in Gaza, well over 50, 60, 70% is unemployed. If there was no occupation, if we had our own borders, if we could trade freely with other nations and other peoples,
if we have access to our own
market,
land, or not to mention the international markets,
just freedom of movement, we wouldn't need their $50 billion. We wouldn't need these bribes. If America was really conscious to want to, and this bribe, incidentally, very little of it's coming from America. It's coming via Saudi Arabia, from the Arab countries, as a payment in advance of what we're going to do to Iran for you.
Yeah,
which is another list on another box to be ticked for Benjamin Netanyahu. To create such a financial impact and such a catastrophe on the Palestinian streets, as to go, this is, to perhaps trigger another confrontation, and who knows where that ultimately leads.
And it's not going to be materialized, because we've seen that in 1983. If you remember, the former Secretary General or Secretary of State, George Shultz, in 1983, came to the West Bank and promised financial aid to the Palestinian society, and said that the Palestinian problem will end if they improve their livelihood.
Economic situation.
And even John Kerry promised in Davos Financial Forum in the Dead Sea a few years ago, $4 billion US dollars to support the Palestinian economy. None of that has seen light.
Yeah. If they were serious, instead of giving Israel $10 billion a year, give us 5 of that. Tell them to let us have our own airspace and land and sea borders, and we'll turn that into an oasis in no time. It'll be the Dubai of the Mediterranean.
It's occupation stupid, like they say.
It's occupation stupid.
So
let's go to Bahrain, and firstly, let's list the Arab countries, Yusuf, who betrayed the Palestinian people.
So there is, unfortunately, Jordan, after months of rejecting the idea of the steal of the century, we were surprised that they will send...
It was very, very late.
Very late, but it was unexpected, to be honest. I consider myself a good observant of the Jordanian issue, and I didn't see that happen because I saw the level of rejection from the king, and I saw it from the civil society and from everybody. Everybody was saying, go for it, we're with you, Your Majesty. We don't want to be part of it. And then came this news that, Jordan is going to send a delegate.
So I'm wondering, Yusuf, how much of that, is... wishful naivety, because you don't want to. The reality of the Jordanian economy, between US donations every year and Saudi donations every year, which are always paid late.
It's totally dependent on foreign aid.
And the foreign aid is particularly Saudi and US.
But I want to quote Ma'an al-Qatamin, a Jordanian lawyer who yesterday issued a video attacking the Jordanian participation in the Bahrain and saying, look, we were promised to receive something like $7 billion. The plan says that Jordan will receive something like $7.2 billion over the next 10 years. That's not going to be much, given that that we pay interest for our external and internal rate more than we will receive on a yearly basis. Mm-hmm. So first of all, it's not much. Second, it's not going to be donation; it's going to be loans, as if Jordan wants more loans to pay and more debts. And therefore, it's not even a good offer. It's not even a good bribe, and and it doesn't reflect the Jordanian spirit of really rejecting the deal of the century.
It should also be mentioned that as we understand it, the loans or that would be given to Jordan and to Lebanon and Syria, if they were to sign on, are predicated on the absorption of the Palestinian refugees, so as to eliminate
and to forego the right of return.
Yeah,
so there is Jordan, and there is also...
And $7 billion will go nowhere to what are we talking, 3 or 4 million Palestinians in Jordan?
Well, 1/3 of the Palestinian population is in Jordan.
Yeah, so 5 million.
The biggest concentration of Palestinians worldwide, not in West Bank, not in Gaza, not in 48 areas. It is in Jordan.
Yeah. So $7.2 billion over 10 years. It's not going to build enough schools, hospitals, houses, let alone any compensation for lost lands.
So you have Jordan, and then you have Egypt, and now we have in Egypt a president who will just say yes to any $ offer. That's why Egypt.
But also Egypt post Camp David, another the second biggest recipient of US aid per annum after Israel.
So there is Egypt is promised something like, is it 9 or 10 billion, something like 10 billion or 9 something billion over the next 10 years. So I was not surprised to see Egypt take part, given knowing the current leadership in Egypt. But I don't know why Morocco is sending someone.
Our North African brothers. What?
But look, Morocco has symbolically a position on Jerusalem, because there is something called the Jerusalem Fund and the Jerusalem Committee, which is under the Arab League. It is historically in Rabat, Morocco. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a Jerusalem-related issue. And that's scary, that's worrying. But we've seen protests in Morocco, really big protests against the participation of their country. And then comes Qatar. And we have to remember that there is a boycott or siege against Qatar by Saudi Arabia / Bahrain / Emirates / Egypt. And now all of a sudden, not only they are talking, they are sending someone to Bahrain. So
it's amazing.
It's amazing
Palestine can unite these mortal enemies. But we should also thank some people, Yusuf.
But before that, I also mentioned those who participated. UAE, Emirates is sending delegates. But like you said, Nasser, we should thank.
In particular, Kuwait. Some very strong statements.
Very strong rejection coming out from the Kuwaiti parliament against the workshop and against the normalization with Israel, and really progressive view in time of what Mahmoud Darwish called apostasy. This is because you are an apostate if you are an Arab and support Israel.
Mm-hmm. And also, in particular, the Bahraini people who have...
Civil society in Bahrain
Yeah.
really strongly rejected hosting this conference. I've spoken in my Arabic show with an MP, Mr. Falah Hashim, who said that who said to the Palestinians, do not think that the people of Bahrain have endorsed it. In fact, the parliament was not consulted. The government didn't even go to the parliament to get the approval of organizing. It went ahead without even consulting with its own parliament. It's against the will of the Bahraini people. It's against the will of the civil society. And they actually they did some really heartwarming little things, but very important, like raising the Palestinian flag on their homes, on their doors, in their cars, and even changing the profile pictures on social media, just to tell the Palestinians that, yes, our government is doing a scandalous thing against the Palestinian cause, but not in our name.
Well, the reality is, whether it's Jordan or Egypt or the Emirates, Qatar or Saudi Arabia, these are absolute monarchies or absolute dictatorships. Totalitarian regimes. The will of the people is not represented by these people. They are all sycophants to U.S. foreign policy, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Which is a stupid theory in politics, because it's more complicated than...
It's always more complicated.
Than this one-step solution.
Mm-hmm. Well, this, like every other neo-colonialist plan that has denied Palestinian agency, is stillborn. And Kush Immak, Mr. Kushner. And, you will see, the Palestinians will live longer, and their steadfastness will see you and your father-in-law out in no time.
So to wrap it up, Nasser, what we see in Bahrain is not even an offer. It's a workshop of brainstorming, of having an economic answers to a political question, bypassing the political part of the Palestinian story, not even the Palestinian conflict. It's actually the Palestinian demands, because I like what the Jordanian commentator said yesterday. He said, if you see the offer, you will see something for Egypt, something for Lebanon, something for Jordan, something for the Palestinian territory, not even in one basket. There's something in West Bank, and another thing for Gaza. There's no unity for the Palestinian package. But what about Israel? The hidden part is that Israel is scoring the political part. It's the hidden item. It means that the political gain is not mentioned. So it's a political laundry of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and it is based on the assumption that let's talk directly to the Palestinian people. Let's bypass whatever representatives, whether it be PA or PLO or Hamas or anyone else. And we assume that the Palestinians, excuse me, when they hear this generosity, they will say, yeah, we'll take that. And let's keep our aspirations of independence and liberation and self-determination, and let's just talk about how we can improve our life. This is the stupid assumption that the Trump administration is building their offer on.
Well, that naivety is, predicated on a mindset of superiority. These native savages don't know, and if we don't know, but what was leaked, some of the bits and pieces that were part of the political framework about New Palestine, where we had economic autonomy, where there was going to be, Egypt was going to get money theoretically for an industrial zone in the north of the Sinai, alongside and adjacent to Gaza, so that Palestinians could work there, but at night time they had to go back to Gaza. They could work there, but they couldn't live there. And Egypt would be compensated for those loss of lands. And so too, there would be economic zones within the West Bank, but everything else would be annexed to Israel. I mean, it's set up to create a Palestinian no, so that we can be displayed to the world as rejectionists. And so, obviously, we have to support the good guys in this equation, the people that said yes, the Israelis, and reward them for saying yes, and punish the Palestinians for saying no. And it just beggars belief that this, it's an egregious act of bullying. This concept that the United States is an honest power broker. I mean,
never been and never will.
Never been, never will, and this is the most flagrant demonstration of
bias.
The partiality. The bias is, short of going to a Carlton-Collingwood game in a Collingwood jumper in the Carlton cheer squad, you couldn't find any worse bullying than this.
So I will leave the discussion on this topic with a good note. On the issue of normalization between Arab countries and Israel. One of the assistants of Ishaq Rabin said in his diaries that when they went to Oman for the first time in 1994, he decided to take a walk of the formality of the trip. And he went to a fish market to just he speaks Arabic, and he wanted to speak to locals. So he introduced himself to an elderly fish vendor in the market, and he said, I am such and such from Israel, and I'm here for peace, and together we can create a good future for our children, blah, blah, blah. So the response was very simple from the older man from Oman. He said, you might be allowed to enter our countries, but you will never be allowed to enter our hearts. We will never like you. We will never be friends. And I don't want to continue this conversation. And this simple yet wise answer of the old man reflects the spirit in Bahrain and in the Arab world. There will never be a time, even if the government normalize.
Well, this is the reality.
The societies will never. Egypt, for more than 30 years, nearly now 40 years, after Camp David, the Egyptian society still rejects normalization with Israel.
What's 42 years, yeah?
42 years,
I mean, it's like a blink.
Last time I checked was 30-something.
It's like 42 years later, yeah? And this is what Zionism can't understand. Jews and Judaism are welcome, have always been welcome, have never felt the scourge of the Western disease of anti-Semitism. Zionism is not welcome.
So let's end the episode with a little bit of positivity.
A little bit of good news out of Palestine.
So Salwa Qibti, 71-year-old Palestinian from a village near Nazareth, and her uncle Subhi Mansour, 92, were allowed to visit the cemetery or the grave of Salwa's dad in the village near Nazareth for the first time, even though that they are Israeli
Palestinians of Israel,
holders of Israeli passports, but they were never being allowed by Israel to visit their own family.
Their hometown, yeah. And it should be said that this wasn't a generous offer of some benevolent civil servant. It's
actually a work of Adala Center, and the lawyer from Adala, Mr. or Mrs. Sausan Zahar, said that there was no any legal ground, there was no reason given. They were just continual rejection of the demands by Salwa and her family to visit her father's grave, who was killed
during Nakba.
During Nakba time,
and when she was an infant,
she was
not even 1 year old.
Yes, when she was a few months old. So for 71 years, Salwa says we were denied a visit to our family grave. We spent the first half hour looking for the place. We found it, and the Israelis killed my father, and I was born only 15 days after he was killed. And she said that not only that they killed my father, but they don't want us to talk to his spirit. They don't want us to grieve properly. So this tells you, the level of pain that Israelis want to inflict and reflect on Palestinians, not whether they are in West Bank, in Jerusalem, in Gaza, even citizens of Israel. To them, to Israel, they belong to the wrong type of people, and therefore they deserve to be punished in every way. So anyway, that's it, Nasser, for this week. Thank you, dear listeners, for being with us for another edition of Palestine Remembered. Until we meet next week, this is Robert, Nasser and Yusuf wishing you the best of time and salam. Stay tuned for the Radioactive Show.